The new patch for Lost Sword actually brings in a lot of changes for a few characters, so I do want to talk a little bit about them, what has changed on the tier list, and if it's worth pulling for the current banners or not. As usual, before we start, hello the internet, welcome back to Waifus. I'm Sefhi, your favorite gambling addict, and today's topic is the latest patch on Lost Sword, all of the buffs we currently got for Nesha, Eva, Lohengrin, and Lisa, and if it's worth actually going into any of those banners. Leave a like, subscribe, comment on the channel, and let's jump directly into the tier list changes if you guys want a TLDR, since that's usually probably easier to do, and then we can go into one by one all of the characters. So a TLDR, a small TLDR, this is not live yet, should be live in a few hours after this video is posted. But basically, the changes are Lisa moving up one tier, Lohengrin stays here, fantastic character. Nesha could be argued to be one tier up into OP, but my thing with OP is that I want characters that are, or that have a lot of uses, not just being I am a good DPS, nothing else, right? So I don't want to compare her with Morgan, Wade, and Belsi because they have way more things to offer than just being good at their main role. Still, Nesha damage is a lot better now, so that's great. And then I am keeping Eva on the same tier she is at. I feel her buff is the weakest one. And I am moving down Guinevere as well as Ran into tier 1. The reason to move them down is simply that Guinevere was seeing a lot more usage, and then they released Luera, which kill most of the situations where you would be bringing her. Now, still, in campaign, they are starting to do some bosses that are shield breakers and that are getting stronger if you run shields, so there is still situations where you will run Guinevere, right? But clearly in the current meta, she is not as popular anymore, still a fantastic character. Same things apply for Ran. We have so many options for damage dealers that Ran loses value because outside of single target and bosses, you don't see her as often. So once again, still good damage dealer, but not as popular as she was before. So those are the changes for the tier list. Now let's go into one by one all of the characters and what has changed. First, for Nesha, the only thing that has changed on Nesha is the damage here on the passive skill damage. It's increased to 100%. It was a 50% before. This means she's actually doing a lot more damage now, thanks to that. Nothing else changes. Like, she's still probably the strongest damage dealer we currently have in the game, but functionally nothing else changes. So that's for Nesha herself. Then we can talk about Lohengrin, for example. So Lohengrin has a couple different things. First, her additional hit on the passive 2 has been increased for damage. Critical chance buff on passive 2 because she did not have before. So if we go into where is Lohengrin here, on the second passive, this critical hit chance wasn't here before, so that's nice. This 120 was increased as well. And then she also has a couple of things changed on her active. This has been reduced when it comes to the damage that it's dealing for the active skill. The damage of the active skill has been reduced, and previously this critical hit chance was on the active skill rather than being on the passive. But now it's permanently, you don't have to worry about any downtime, so it's a little bit better. Even if the damage is reduced, this skill has become better now. And then lastly, you have her ultimate, which basically just will reduce the cooldown on the active skill. I think that is the only change, if I remember correctly, from the previous version. So that's for Lohengrin. I will show damage comparisons number on a second, but she is hitting a lot harder. In fact, she can catch up and even surpass Palamedes depending on the team composition and your setup. So yes, fantastic character. Lohengrin buff is pretty good. Then we have the next one, which is going to be Lisa. Lisa has also gotten a really good buff. I'll show numbers later once again. But even at the +5, she is catching up to my Lohengrin and to my Palamedes. A little bit less, obviously, because she's missing that 20% damage, but it's pretty good. Now, what has changed on Lisa? Passive 1 also increases crit hit chance and attack. This was not here earlier. We only had the attack speed before. So now she also has the usual buffs most damage dealers have, right? Which is this a standard 88% and 15% crit hit chance. Then you have her passive 2, which basically it's adding two things. First is this cooldown reduction for the ultimate. Every time you are activating 6 marks on the enemy, right? You are reducing the cooldown for the ultimate, which is nice. And also the attack has been increased to 666%. It was 400 something previously. This means that now Lisa will have some issues with timing her ultimate at the same time as Galahad, for example, but it is worth it because she can use her ultimate a few more times during a battle. Then her ultimate damage has been increased, And her ultimate also increases the skill passive damage now. So damage increase on the normal ultimate here, and this is completely new if I remember correctly. Once again, for 2 seconds increases the passive skill damage, which is gonna be coming from everything else. So pretty good buff. She's actually a nice DPS now. I will say she will see more usage. I will say she's on a similar position to Ran and all of these girls that they have a specific niche, right? Specific niches that they can participate in. So we might see Lisa in the future dropping again, depending what they do. But that applies for so many characters nowadays. Like, for example, Tiamat, right? By today's standards, Tiamat is not that popular either. So that's for Lisa. And then lastly, we have Eva. So Eva is my least favorite buff. There's not a lot of things for her. So basically, cooldown on passive 1 is reduced, right? So the cooldown right here, it's changed to 6 seconds now, and a 2-second cooldown, it was different before. Everything else remains the same. The second passive is gonna be now also improving the critical hit chance. It's changed, and it's also giving critical damage, which earlier it didn't. So the critical hit chance is increased, and we also have the critical damage increase now, which is nice. That's the only thing that changes here. And then active damage right here has been increased. That's it. There's nothing else. Everything else remains the same, even for her ultimate. So now Eva now will have an easier time stacking, but it still takes some time. On short fights, it's still not worth bringing her. I will say the biggest problem she has compared to the other girls is that she has less self buffs, so she's gonna be way more dependent on team compositions. And considering for shock we have other characters that can just do better as long as you can proc shock, like Ran, there is not that many situations where you will be bringing Eva. I do really like her, and her ultimate is one of my favorites, but her buff in my opinion is the weakest one. Now, for some extra reference, okay, Holy Scarecrow 1 minute 30 seconds. As you can see, my Nesha on a basic team, all of them with Galahad, Belsay, Morgan, and Lueda. Nesha is doing 5.4, which is fantastic. All full auto. It's not the best setup, but it's still a great reference. Then switching Nesha for Lisa, and we're going from 5.4 to 3.2, but this is a 3.2 on a +5 Lisa. If you have an awakened Lisa, she can catch up to your Morgan, no problem. That is a fantastic change, considering previously her damage was way worse, like way worse. So pretty good change for Lisa. Then we have Eva on the same team composition, same thing. This is an awakened Eva 2.1. Lueira Morgan is still crashing her. Obviously some RNG for the damage on the other girls, but 2.1, it is still an increase compared to her previous damage, but it's not fantastic. It's not something that I would recommend people to go for either. And then I went into a normal knight team composition, removing Galahad and putting Diane. The rest stayed the same. And my Palamedes was doing 3.6. Obviously, we could optimize this team to have more CC, and that would mean doing more damage on Palamedes, because there is not that much CC in here, only with Belsay, right? And then we were putting Lohengrin, and she's doing 3.8, which is pretty good. Now, once again, if you put more CC, Palamedes will do more damage. But still, it's a fantastic damage increase on Lohengrin, considering she was falling behind when it comes to the other girls. Like I said earlier, I think Lisa could still be a T1 character, no problem. It depends on what you're doing. A lot of the characters in T0 and T1 can be exchanged up and down depending on your account, and it's still the same, right? Obviously, there are some that are worse overall, like it's the case for Vivian or Summer Merry or even Christina and Asteria, being more of characters that are a lot more situational. But yes, that's basically all of the changes that they've done. There is nothing else as far as I see. Now, lastly, before we go, two things. The first is that hell mode, this is still the same bullshit, okay? If you're stuck here, it's still the same bullshit. The new chapter was pretty easy, nothing interesting in there on 67. I haven't checked Abyss yet, but there is not a new card. So there is 10 new floors, but there is no card. Still, I probably will push because I want this card and this random pet. And then lastly, obviously, is it worth pulling for any of the characters here, being Lisa, Lilith, Tiamat? And the answer is no. It's not worth pulling for a single one of them, nor the characters, nor the pets. The collab is next, and you should be saving for that. Those are limited characters. Any of the other girls are not limited, and there is no rush to be getting her or getting dupes, okay? So that's it. Enough ranting, enough jumping. That's everything for this video. I'm pretty happy with the boobs. I hope they keep doing them in the future. I hope Eva gets a second boob in the future, because once again, I think it's the weakest one in contrast to the other girls. But still, This means the developers are at least trying to make characters better. We have so many gachas where developers ignore all units, and in here we're getting pretty semi-consistently, I will say, every other month or so, we're getting a few boosts on units. So hope they keep doing that. Hope we also see some reworks for the lower rating girls, basically everyone on the screen right now here, right? All of these girls, including Gawain, Mia, and Cirque as well. We'll see what they do. Enough japping, we are live every single day. Links in the description down below. Good luck with your pool, and I'll see you on the next one.